I'm just waiting for the accusations of review bombing to start flying, if they have not begun to do so already. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with another video, and to say that this Netflix docu-series on Queen Cleopatra from Jada Pinkett Smith is getting roasted is a masterpiece of understatement. It is getting demolished, absolutely annihilated with the user scores and reviews. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's just dive right into this article so you can get a gauge of the scores this quasi-docu-series has received, as well as the impressions left by people who actually tried to watch it. So without further ado, here it is. Netflix users did not hold back in roasting Jada Pinkett Smith and Netflix's docudrama series Queen Cleopatra. On IMDb, the series has an atrocious 1.1 out of 10 from 42,000 editors do your job users, with the vast majority, 94.5%, giving the series the lowest score possible, a 1 out of 10. And this is partly why I'm waiting for the accusations of review bombing to start flying, because of that huge disparity in scores. Now, am I completely discounting the 1s out of 10s? No, I'm not completely discounting them. I'm just saying that people who want to use that narrative will use this as an example to try to spin it as much as possible. But there it is. 1.1 out of 10 on IMDb. One user wrote, "It is hard to take this, quote, documentary seriously when there are errors in just about every scene. Ancient Egypt existed for 3.5 millennia, and the Ptolemaic period of Greek control and its involvement in Roman policies, especially the Roman civil wars, is a very specific period. For example, no Egyptian was spoken at the court. Greek was spoken." The user added, "But getting costumes wrong, getting basic timelines of battles like Actium wrong, placing Cleopatra at events we know she was not present at, mixing up things done by Antony with those done by Octavian, and an unending series of errors just makes this impossible to watch. It is clear no experts or even anyone with a basic knowledge of the history of the time and place was involved, or if they were, their advice was inverted. The dialogue is also laughably childish, as is the acting." Another gave the series a 1 out of 10 writing. Next, quote, a documentary of Bruce Lee with a non-Chinese actor, or a documentary of Mandela with a white or Asian actor could be the next politically correct idea of Netflix producers. There's no way they're going to do that, because blackwashing doesn't exist, apparently. So why would they risk the rage from the virtue signaling crowd doing this? Because only whitewashing happens, right? Only whitewashing happens. Already previous historic documentaries of Netflix had 20% non-historical facts, so who cares? History is made by winners and producers, right? I was already thinking of canceling my Netflix subscription, so with a documentary that changes facts to adapt it to its own values, I believe that I have taken my decision. It promotes more anger than serves any politically correct value. There are a lot of famous and historically real persons of any race or gender that have changed the world for the better. They could show us these. Yeah, they could show us these. Like I mentioned in one of my videos, according to a quote from Jada Pinkett Smith or someone at Netflix, that there were tons of African legends that they could have talked about. I said, well, if there are tons, then you could have picked any one of those, but they decided to race swap Queen Cleopatra. Why? Because Queen Cleopatra is more well known. That's purely the reason why, and also for them to use her as their own political statement. Not to teach us at all the history of the actual Queen Cleopatra. No, they wanted it as a vehicle to push their own ideology. Another also gave it a 1 out of 10, describing it as, quote, amateurish black feminist propaganda. The user then detailed, construct a 3-part series based on a few grains of truth and huge dollops of critical feminist ideology, and this is what results. It's actually funny, though unintentionally so, seeing how seriously it takes itself, and how it clobbers the viewer over the head with its supposed facts, such as a eunuch, Parthenos, with a beard. Come on. Hopefully I don't have to explain what a eunuch is. And why that would be unheard of. And tedious, plotting presentations reminiscent of a Sunday school film. Feel sorry for the actors who had to stand there in front of a camera mouthing the inane dialogue and hope they were at least paid for their efforts. Because I very much doubt that they will want this to appear on their CVs, the user concluded. In sum, it flunks its history and flops its entertainment. Still another user wrote, if Cleopatra was from another dimension, the user continued, where to begin with the historical inaccuracies? From start to finish, the inaccuracies are shoved in your face. Whoever made this series is trying to rewrite history with their own warped fantasies. It almost feels like a twisted fan fiction, or if Cleopatra was in the multiverse. The sad thing is, they are calling this a documentary-style series. It's an insult to Egypt and any historian. I feel this is a disgrace to Cleopatra and her name. It's a shame because this garbage will probably confuse so many people who watch it and believe it, the user asserts. It's incredibly unjust to take a historical figure and change them to fit your narrative. I agree. I would be just as upset if they took, let's say, Mandela and race swapped him to white. I would be just as upset because we know Nelson Mandela was black. Another user described the series as an American uses a colonizing mindset to rewrite history. The user explained, as the title says, I'm all for diversity in media, including historical fantasy like Bridgerton. That's where I tend to give some series a pass. I don't agree with them necessarily, but I tend to give them a pass because they don't pass themselves off as an actual documentary or non-fiction. It's fiction, entirely fiction, pretty much. Historically accurate? Not in the least, but they don't present themselves as historical facts. So I kind of give them a pass, like whatever, I'm not going to watch it, but some people do. In this case, and when I say they, I mean Netflix, Jada Pinkett Smith, the director, have been constantly trying to pass this off as historical documentary, historical fact, non-fiction, etc., etc., etc. When in reality, it was none of that, none of the sorts, and used purely as a vehicle to push their own ideology onto an historical figure and with modern political mindsets. That's it. But Cleopatra was not fictional. She was a real person and is a significant cultural icon in Egypt. Yes, because they also pissed off both Egypt and Greece. Generally speaking, films about foreign history should at the very least have someone from that country at the head of the production, the IMDb user opined. An American forcing their own worldview onto another country's history is as American of tradition as apple pie, speaking about both the American right and left. I agree with that to an extent. I do think it's unfair to basically broad brush all Americans as such, but I've read enough history to agree enough with that because it's happened from both the right and the left. In the U.S., the rewriting of history from conservatives is a real threat to a society. That I do disagree with, because the ones that are actually upset at history and trying to rewrite it is not the conservatives, but the far left. They're the ones trying to spin certain facts and quack facts into their modern political mindsets to alter what happened, to basically minimize or obscure what they don't like about history, and so forth, or ignoring parts of it, like, for example, such as how, like, Martin Luther King was Republican, how Malcolm X, basically not only had issues with conservatives, but also with white liberals, as he put it, things like that, and how the KKK was created by Democrats, and so forth. They don't like facts like that, so they'll ignore those and try to push their own version of history, alright? So that I disagree with, alright? It's not conservatives. Conservatives, whether on the right or left, because there are conservatives that do lean left, tend to want to respect and preserve history, not the extremes on either end. Mostly on the left. And something the left has said we need to address. However, now we see rewriting of a foreign country's history at the expense of diversity. Diversity can be done successfully in so many ways, and simply put, this is not it, the user declared. On Rotten Tomatoes, the series has made the worst audience score rating of all time with a 2% rotten score. Scarlet B gave the series a 1 out of 5 stars, writing, I just watched it and it was so bad, all I can do is laugh and cry because of how inaccurate it was. They made Cleopatra VII a warrior first of all. She wasn't a warrior, and also I forgot how many times they said their opinion and ideas about how Cleopatra VII was when it's supposed to be historically accurate, right? Okay, opinions does not equal facts. The K also gave the series a 0.5 out of 5. The user wrote, absolute dribble. James was a great actor, but nothing rings true, and since it's a docudrama, it essentially is being marketed as truth. But sadly, it's far from, both in parts relating to Cleopatra's sister, and also they ignore that it's considered the fact that she is Macedonian, not African, and she was a daughter of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Yeah, Macedonian Greek. the Ptolemaic line, which is notorious for inbreeding to preserve the pure blood within the family. The mere fact of being classified as a documentary and not providing a real image attached to what science says causes it to deserve the lowest rating, Hector G. wrote after giving the series a 0.5 out of 5. I'm not going to try to pronounce this name, I don't want to butcher it. Gave Queen Cleopatra a 0.5 out of 5 as well. The Rotten Tomatoes user wrote, F you, like bad acting, this is your thing. I love historical documentaries, but this was painful to watch last night. Also, the narrator was awful. No idea why they picked someone who sounded so nail-grating that it ruined anything going on. A majority of the scenes were just poorly written. Also, the scenes did not merge well with all the academic people speaking. There was no fluidity to the scenes at all. Poorly done. This could have been great, but I do not know who made this, but they should be fired. Moss R. gave the series a 1 out of 5 and wrote, a series that is not worth watching because it deviates from historical sources. Very disrespectful to history and belittling a character in history. This is not a documentary, it is a soap opera, wrote Victor C., who gave the series a 0.5 out of 5. Dorian P. wrote, I'm a fan of the real and historical Cleopatra. This show is nonsense and should have never been funded. He gave the series a 0.5 out of 5. Dervis E. wrote, this is not a documentary, but a fictional drama. Just watch the first part, rivals to see how it would be. It lost my attention, a heaping nothing burger. It is by far the worst drivel in the historic facts and comparable to a haphazard mess for someone who enjoys documentaries and history books of different themes from around the world. Magellan TV or any other channel is far better in documentaries, unlike this fictional mess. He scored the series 0.5 stars out of 5. Randy M. gave the series a 0.5 out of 5. He wrote, besides the whole race controversy, it is very inaccurate in multiple aspects of Cleopatra as a character. It feels like made her black and then didn't know what to do beyond that. They released a trailer and got what they wanted. It is clear no care was put in the actual show. I do not understand how this is a documentary. It is a fictional drama, historically inaccurate, wrote Joseph P. The user scored a 0.5 out of 5. We know the official synopsis and so forth, and it's streaming currently on Netflix. So what do you make of this? I'm not exactly surprised, but I wasn't expecting it to get that low of a score, actually get roasted on both IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, but there it is. And when I said roasted is actually a masterpiece of understatement, because 2% user scores, users own, like the critic source is like 11%, but 2% lowest in Rotten Tomatoes history, and a 1.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Yes, and then I know that's an aggregate score. I generally take the average of all the ratings put together and so forth. Like I said, I'm waiting for the review bombing accusations to begin because it's going to start happening, given the fact of the sheer number of 1s out of 10s given on IMDb and the 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. So waiting for those accusations of racism and sexism and misogyny and so forth to start permeating the social media sites and so forth. So if that does not happen, I would be genuinely surprised. But again, I'm waiting for that to happen. But what do you think? Did you watch this series? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you basically in the middle where it's like, it's not great, but it's not bad either? If you did not watch it, why didn't you watch it? So let me know all that fun stuff down in the comments below. I'll be live later tonight on Kick, finishing up the Halo 3 ODST campaign. I only have 2 more missions to go, and then I should be done with that part of Halo 3. So come check that out. My Kick is Jade Shadow. I'm currently at 120 followers, so trying to get to 150 by the end of the month. So if you enjoy Halo, if you enjoy watching a gamer such as myself rage against the AI and so forth, even though I love the Halo games, come check that out about 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. This is Mara Jade. Catch you on the dark side, and I can see the fires from here. Holy fucking shit.